You're listening to the official Push Square podcast featuring Ben and Ben. Do you push square?
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Push Square podcast. My name is Ben Potter and I'll be your host for the official podcast of the best PlayStation website on the internet, pushsquare.com. And joining me as always, even though it's the last time, is Ben Tarrant. Hello Tarrant.
Hello Potter.
What does that mean?
It means that it's the last time for us, unfortunately.
What?
This is the last Push Square podcast as...
You didn't tell me.
We know it. Surprise!
God, what a shock. The guys who have been gone for 4 months?
It's been like 2,
E3?
I think.
2 months. The last one we did was E3. Apologies to pushsquare.com for not putting an episode out sooner because they've had a massive, ugly E3-related piece of content in the middle of their website for the past 2 months. That's our bad. Sorry. But yeah, this is it. This is it for us. We're two very busy men. I've got a lot going on with work. You've got a lot going on with house hunting and
moving in, preferably.
Uni stuff. Well, moving in, hopefully. Uni stuff and so on. And it's just, unfortunately, we just cannot dedicate the time to this that we want to.
Yeah, this deserves, an entire afternoon of our work, and then whatever time you spend editing it, Potter. So it's, it's not just crack it out and walk away from it. We want to put out something that we're proud of every time we record, and that's not necessarily tenable for us in the current climate. And rather than putting out mediocre stuff all the time, we thought better to kind of quit while we're ahead.
Well, this is it. Thank you so much everybody who's supported us so far. We hope you enjoy this final episode. We will be doing the news. Our big content this week will be a discussion about Destiny 2 and some chatter about Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, Knack 2, and everybody's golf.
Because everybody cares about everybody's golf.
Everybody does. It's in the name. Then we've got some audience questions, and we're going to give some thank yous at the end there, and then wrap it all up. So, Tarrant, for the last time, are you ready?
I am. Let's do this.
News time! Goodness, there's not a great deal of news going on, is there?
I've been, obviously where our schedules haven't worked up, but I've always had the notes ready, so I've been updating them every time we've attempted to go and do a cast, and whatever's happened. I mean, I had family emergencies, you had holiday, I had holiday, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And each time the news section is very, very bleak. I feel like it's like everybody just splurted their load at E3 and they've all kind of wind down now. There's not a lot going on. There's a lot of rumour mill stuff still. I think now is probably a bit more interesting. So hopefully we've got some cool things to talk about.
Yes. Yeah, you've cherry-picked some of the best stuff since we've been away. First of which, Bethesda Game Studios are supposedly working on a Game of Thrones title. Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I do. I haven't watched the newest season because I like to...
Oh, how have you not?
I know. I've done it with Rick and Morty as well. I've completely held off and I'm just going to binge them all in. I'm a binger. I like watching it all in one go. So I've Twitter has made me quite aware that I'm missing out big time. But
yeah, I'm amazed you've managed to avoid spoilers for both of those shows.
I know. I've had one spoiler for Game of Thrones, which I personally don't regard as particularly bad. It's not a bad spoiler. It's not like some of them that I've had previous. I mean, I had The Force Awakens spoiled for me in the pub the night before I went to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, that bridge scene.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
I just turned around and was like, "Are you having a laugh, mate? Did you really just shout that out in a Wetherspoons?"
What the hell? That's not fair.
No, not cool. But yeah, so I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Well, you do, but you haven't seen the latest season. Would you be interested in a Bethesda developed Game of Thrones game? And obviously, how brilliant and not clunky it would be.
See, this is where you need to look at their Bethesda Game Studios library, because obviously our first port of call in that instance would be, oh my god, a Skyrim Game of Thrones. which, yeah, that's made by Bethesda Game Studios. But you've also got to consider that Bethesda Game Studios also work on lots of mobile titles, including mobile, like, pinball titles.
Boo!
And a lot of those are licensed, meaning it's more than likely licensing for some kind of trash mobile game rather than a big, expansive open world with dragons. But if it is for a big open world with dragons, then cool, sign me up for Skyrim again. Because, you know, if you can't make another Skyrim that isn't Skyrim but basically is Skyrim.
I am so done with Skyrim, and I think I was done the first time around. I played it solidly for a month, and I honestly ruined it for myself. I could never go back to it. I've tried. It got re-released on PS4. I can't bring myself to play it. I didn't play any of the DLC because it didn't run when your save file got to a certain size. And I'm certainly won't be playing it in VR because it looks clunky and stupid. It looks rubbish in VR.
Yeah,
God.
no, thank you for the VR. I reattempted Skyrim on PS4. And yeah, I just didn't have the willpower to invest that sheer amount of time that I did when I was younger and gave Skyrim a go on PS3. I mean, I platinumed it on PS3. It was my first platinum on PS3, which I'm very proud of. Nice. But yeah, there's no way I could give it another full run like I used to. So
I'd play a Game of Thrones game though, if it was a big open world.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Bethesda game.
There's a degree of like further enjoyment to it being a licensed game, so having all of the like familiar characters and familiar settings, I think it would be super enjoyable, even if it had this similar formula to Fallout and Skyrim.
There's already a Game of Thrones game, and it's bad.
Oh, that the Telltale one.
No, that one's actually not too bad. There was an official Game of Thrones game, and on PS3, and it wasn't good. So if you want a little taster, you can go and play that if you like.
Licensed games are inherently bad, aren't they? Like official movie tie-ins and stuff.
Usually, I think it had official like voice talent in and stuff.
Oh wow, that's better than most then.
Yeah, the Telltale series did as well, which was good. But yeah, anyway, some more up-to-date news that came out today, I think, right? About Okami
53
HD.
minutes before we recorded.
Oh, look at that! What a professional. There's an Okami HD remake coming to PS4, which will be launching on the 12th of December with 4K support on the PS4 Pro.
I've heard loads of hullabaloo about Okami, and I love the look of the art style whenever I see it, but I've never actually played it. So this is one of those. Yeah, this is one of those HD remakes. I'm like, oh, cool, sweet, yeah, I'll give that a whirl instead of buying a PS2.
Yeah, I will too. I'll give that another go.
It's going to be $15.99.
Oh, that's very reasonable.
Yeah, for something that, you know, for those that have it. I mean, 4K support's not going to be easy on a game that's that old. So they put, they haven't just like wrapped it up in a bow and thrown it out the door. They put some work into it. So yeah, I'm glad to see that, and I'll definitely give that another whirl.
Excellent.
Give that a whirl, rather.
Give that a whirl, a twirl.
A whirly woo.
What's next?
Batman voice actor Kevin Conroy,
Legend,
has stated that there are currently no more Arkham games in production because wouldn't he? He's not going to be the guy that announces the next Arkham game. But apparently, that's
remember when they
news.
said Mark Hamill was done voicing the Joker? Do you remember that?
Yep, exactly.
And then Arkham Knight.
They're not going to. He's not going to be the guy to announce it. He's going to be, if he knows about it, he's under strict NDAs that will involve his contract, ergo his contracts that put food on the table for him, to not say anything. So, he's obviously going to say that.
Yeah, well, we don't have the context either. If someone just straight up asked him, hey, is there going to be a new Batman game? And he said, no, there's no more Batman games in the work at the moment. Then that's just an off-the-cuff comment. If he's like made a statement on his Twitter that there are no more Arkham games, then that's different. But even so, you shouldn't believe him.
No, not at all.
He's Batman.
I mean, to be fair, you've got to consider the wording on it. So he said that there are currently no more, which could well be the truth. That they have plans to. It
may well refer to. He may well just be referring to him. Like he's not going to be made aware of every Arkham game of going. They did Arkham Origins, that didn't have him in, and they're supposedly doing that Arkham other one that's in development. I can't remember what it's called, but there's another one in development supposedly not by Rocksteady.
And
that could well have what's his name in as Batman rather than Kevin Conroy, so he wouldn't be aware of that probably.
Yeah, exactly. Or be aware of it, and he said this statement in referral to his presence within the production of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good series for want of a point. I've really enjoyed them. I remember playing Arkham Asylum that first time around, just being like, this is exactly what I wanted a Batman game to be like.
Yeah, Arkham Asylum was incredible, and I really liked City, and Night was still really good, but it was, worse.
So it makes sense that they'll probably maybe take a bit of a break from it. I mean, Warner Brothers are currently working on... It is Warner Brothers that make it, right? That are involved with it?
Yes, they publish, yeah.
Yeah, so they're obviously hands-on with the likes of Shadow of War.
Yeah, for better or for worse, right?
Do you know what?
God.
Every time I open Twitter, the game industry is upset about microtransactions and loot boxes and stuff, and I get it, but I don't at the same time. It's quite irritating.
It's Warner Brothers just putting their hands where they don't need to and muddying a game that doesn't need that stuff.
Yeah, Shadow of Mordor was so good. I really liked it.
I wasn't fussed by it. That was the Push Square game of the year that I just didn't understand.
I just thought the Nemesis, from a design perspective, the Nemesis system is incredible. Not as functional as it could be, but like the premise of it and the fact that a lot of it worked. And yeah, I mean, if they built on that and made it more tactile, then that's going to be incredible. Maybe there aren't that many changes, which is why they've hammered in all the cosmetics. I just think those things take time. Making all these skins, making all of these orcs, making all of that is developers' time. That is literally shoehorned in a manner that makes money. Like they're made purposefully to create money and programs. It's like Destiny, which we're going to talk about in a bit, but it's also relevant now. How they've done things like the shaders and made them like single use and stuff like just almost barbaric practices of just pure money grabbing. But that is developers' time, and developers don't choose to do that. The people that throw money into them are the ones that make those calls. But it's just annoying that developers' time is spent creating those money machines rather than making improving the game, making the game better than it could be, which inherently it'd probably make you more money in the short term, but then it's a business and people want money long term. The financial...
I don't like it.
No, but the financial viability of games long term is in question with the amount of always online stuff that peak and then plummet so quick and servers going offline. The risk reward is big these days. So
yeah, but they could. I think in the case of Shadow of War here are getting so much bad press from it than they would have done if they'd have just not bothered. I think the long term viability of online games is something to take into consideration, but if it's purely about a get as much money as you can versus foster a user base that genuinely loves your product, then that should be a straightforward call.
Yes,
it should be. Try and make the best game possible for all of, to keep your audience together and keep them playing them for the longest time, rather than here's $300 worth of DLC for Evolve. Let's I swore. Let's just strip this game apart and make as much money as possible at the expense of the user base. Because it drives people away.
Yep.
Anyway.
And to be honest, you should be spending your time fostering your player base and all of that. You shouldn't be creating all of this money and for the sake of it through negative press of all things. Not even through here, this is so awesome, spend money. It's like, this is really bad of us to do, but please spend your money still. And people are made to feel like they need it. And I hate it when they hide things behind a grind. Oh, you can still get it all in game. Yeah. But you've made it take 400 hours. So if I really cared, I'm gonna be made to spend that $1.99 because no one's got those 400 hours to grind.
The thing I hate the most, I think currently, is I think TT games should be punished for the way that they present their Lego games currently. the main screen of the last few Lego games I've played on PS4, it's a full page advert for their season pass, and you have to choose the game in order to start the game and get to the main menu. Like, it's a full thing where it's like, hey, do you want to spend more money or play the game you've just bought?
That's awful.
And that's every time you start the game.
Really?
It's like, why is this okay?
Jeez.
Why is no one thinking that's a bit off, isn't it?
They want kids to accidentally press through it and stuff, don't they?
Possibly.
That's
I don't
awful.
know. I'm not going to say that, but I can't imagine that hasn't happened.
Yeah, no, that's awful.
Yeah. Anyway, we got on a bit of a moan there. A monthly
that's
moan.
good. We need to get it all out in the open.
Yeah. Let's fly through the rest of these then. South Park: The Fractured But Whole. If you change the skin color of your character, the difficulty increases, which is hilarious and incredibly South Park.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it and thought like, ooh, like that's pretty rough. But then that's so on brand for South Park.
That's incredibly South Park. That's
so ballsy.
Yeah,
so ballsy.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how the whole I don't know, without poking the wasp's nest here, Tarrant, how the whole alt-right gaming scene was reacting to it.
Yep.
Because I don't think they knew what to do with themselves. Because I don't think they're clever enough to differentiate that South Park is not an ally of theirs. South Park just does what it wants.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's all that needs to be said on that. That's funny, and I'm very interested to see how that works out.
Yeah.
Gearbox have confirmed that Borderlands 3 is in production. Randy Pitchford of Gearbox said at PAX West that 90% of the team are working on what you want us to be working on.
Which obviously isn't Battleborn 2.
No, you would assume not. Yeah, finally, they showed off at the, I think it was GDC, the Game Developers Conference.
The tech demo stuff.
Off, yeah, of their new engine.
Cool,
it's
yeah.
clearly Borderlands.
Oh, yeah,
clearly
yeah.
is what and everyone knew they'd be working on it anyway, but it's nice to have confirmation, pretty much, that they're doing it.
Yeah, and I'm going to be so on that, because we can play it co-op. Woohoo!
Yeah, Borderlands 2, one of my favourite games.
Yeah.
And the pre-sequel was good. That's it.
Good.
It is fine. Bethesda's Creation Club. What is this, Tarrant? And why is it
Essentially, mods are curated by developers, so be it people from Bethesda Game Studios themselves or like affiliates and stuff like that, and they present mods that are 100% guaranteed to work with your save file, not corrupt it and stuff, and with all of the current save files and your game, blah, blah, blah. But they're paid. You have to pay for them.
Boo!
Which is awful, because a lot of the mods are essentially... So they're only launching with an array of mods, and essentially 99% of the mods are all mods that are currently available for free by other people that have just been redone by the affiliate developers and then sold for money rather than being free.
Right.
I don't really get how they're doing this or how they think it's okay. Things like
every single post I've seen about it on Facebook that they do is just like a mass of anger.
Yeah, good,
underneath.
Because it's ridiculous. It goes back to that money grabbing lark. But paying for mods is a weird thing, because mods originally were born from people just wanting to mess about with the game and make their mark on it. And this formalizes it in a way that it's never been formalized before. And I think it's partly anger at Bethesda for basically putting a gate up behind the things that make their games, one, better, more stable, two, cooler, but also because it paves the way, like they did with the stupid review scheduling stuff, the review policy.
Yeah.
It paves the way for general industry behavior, which this shouldn't be at all okay in the industry as a standard. It's ridiculous at how similar they are. Like, a lot of the mods are, like the Chinese armor, that's already out there for Fallout 4 for free, and it's a carbon copy. But the free one is actually a better resolution, better stability, all of that, and is already confirmed to work with your save files. And then the Chinese armor that you can buy, not with real money, with credits that you buy with real money. And generally you can only buy the credits in bundles, so you buy 1,000 credits, but nothing adds up to 1,000.
It's like XBLA all over again.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
whatever it was called.
It just sniffs of foul play and poor taste.
It's not on.
Yep.
It's not on. So don't support that.
Nope.
Don't support that. Player unknowns. Is it unknowns?
Yeah, he's called Player Unknown's Battleground.
Okay, cool. It's ridiculously popular on PC, and it was supposedly
popular.
It's coming to Xbox as well, but it may well be coming to PS4 as well, right?
Yep. So essentially, Microsoft have come out and said that they're publishing it. So a lot of people were like, it's definitely an exclusive. But the word like permanent, like the console exclusive that they ramble on about everything else that is officially exclusive, they haven't used any of that. The term like timed exclusive has been thrown around, and like current exclusive. So like,
didn't one of the devs say that it would eventually come to PS4 anyway?
Dude, like, I don't know how many millions were concurrently playing it, but a stupidly large number of people were concurrently playing it on the PS4.
27 or something?
Yeah, something absolute. Basically, its first couple of weeks, it sold 2 million copies. In the last 2 weeks, it sold 2 million copies.
Ugh.
It's snowballing at such a disgusting rate. There's no way this game isn't going to come out on like your smartwatches.
Yeah,
eventually.
everything.
You know how Minecraft just is everywhere. That's going to be player unknown for the shooter genre. I've still not played it because my PC basically coughs and catches fire if I attempt it, even though it's fine with everything else.
Yeah.
But I want to play it. The whole like premise of the shrinking ring seems really cool. And do you know what? If it comes to PS4, sweet, I'm on that. That'd be so good. Mm-hmm. It seems like that kind of game that would do well from having, you know how Rocket League, just everybody plays that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be such a good fit just being on everything. And I don't know how much money Microsoft will be willing to throw at it to keep it.
Yes. Well, we'll see.
But
I think it's safe to assume that it will be coming eventually. Shall we move on to our big discussion?
Let's.
Tarrant, talk to me about that Destiny 2.
So I went to a hands-on before it launched, and I did a write-up for Pushware that many of you may have read. And since I haven't played any further of it, but what I played was the finished deal. It was just like a pre-launch kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I walked out of it pretty buzzed, like you would from that kind of. I mean, they took over a whole basement thing in the middle of London, and there were burgers called The Grind and stuff like that. Like, it was all so on brand and twee. And I had some beer goggles on. But after kind of sitting down and thinking about it, looking at everything that's coming out,
mm-hmm.
I don't own it yet. And that speaks volumes into itself. Like, I was there, Destiny day one, like, super on it. I thought it was going to be the next thing since sliced bread. And I'm not too fussed, to be honest. No. I mean, when I played it... It
certainly does look like more Destiny.
Exactly. When I played it, it was like, oh, okay, this all works the same. My grenade takes a little bit longer to charge up, and I can now do that on that button. Cool. Like, I can make an ice shield as a Titan. Sweet. That doesn't dynamically change the vibe enough for me to really get super excited. Destiny was always amazing to me because of the world building that it didn't do, that I had to do myself, that I had to seek out. I liked exploring the information and finding out about the Vex and all of that. I thought all of that was really, really interesting. And they seem to have doubled down a little bit more on the story. But saying that, it does now sound short. People are finishing it in like 4 or 5 hours, apparently. Something ridiculous like that.
Okay.
And it only launches with 14 trophies.
Really?
They've obviously already got the season pass out there, and they've confirmed 2 new expansions, which, granted, they did for Destiny 1, but it's launching a hell of a lot sooner. Mm-hmm. And everything just seemed like it's very run-of-the-mill. Like, we've already got Xur popping up on the Wednesdays, the weekend, sorry. And we've already got the weekly resets going, which is today as we're recording. Mm-hmm. And they're doing their first weekly reset. It's just like back business as usual. And it just seems like they had to release Destiny 1 for financial reasons, ergo having to put it onto the previous architecture, which completely balked their long-term plans.
Right.
Because they've ditched the architecture now, and like, I don't know. It felt like Destiny was originally touted. Do you remember when they were saying it's going to be with us for 10 years? It's a 10-year contract, blah, blah, blah. Your Guardian will be with you for 10 years.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, we first met at a... No, we didn't first meet at a Destiny launch event, but that was the second time we met, wasn't it?
Yes. So all that stuff about... That was such a good night.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was really good. It's when
Alex Stinton drove me home. It was lovely.
I crashed out in Trafalgar Square. Because they kept running out of different alcohol, didn't they? So it was like Prosecco when you walk in, and then they ran out of Prosecco, so they switched. So basically, they were mixing our drinks for us. So it was a recipe for disaster.
I wasn't drinking because I had to drive, but I'd parked in Oxford and then caught a bus, and Stinton had driven, so he drove me back to Oxford and dropped me at my car, so I could then drive home.
Bless him.
Yeah, it was a crazy night. Anyway, yes, I do remember them saying it was a 10-year cycle. I was like, that's optimistic because everyone stopped playing after 3 months.
Well, it was optimistic.
Some people did anyway.
And then at the first hurdle of our Guardian coming with us, no, they've stopped that. It's like already that's not the case. We're just over 3 years into what was supposed to be a 10-year thing. Mm-hmm. And, none of our gear carries over. So essentially, Destiny 1 was irrelevant.
The question is this the same Bungie that I think people think it might be? In a similar sense to how BioWare is not the same BioWare that made Mass Effect 2. And shortly after the success of Modern Warfare, Infinity Ward is definitely no longer the Infinity Ward that it was. Is Bungie now the same Bungie that it was when it was making Halo, or is this just Bungie in all but name, or not in all but name, sorry, but just name, with their real, because it's a very functional game clearly, and there's a lot right with it, but it feels very, from the outside looking anyway, it feels very clinical. It feels like this is a sequel to a very successful video game, and this too will be a very successful video game.
Yes.
It doesn't really seem to be trying particularly hard in the story or like the visual department, visual from a sense of like, obviously it looks gorgeous, but it's not got a particularly striking art style. It's just photorealistic aliens and guns.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shame when you look at the concept art, which is purely staggering. Like, I can't get over how good the concept art for Destiny is. And I recall the concept art for Halo being stunning. And it's like you said, they aren't the same Bungie, and they won't be. But this is obviously the biggest contract they've ever handled as a studio, and it shows. And I think all of the stuff that came out about Destiny 1's development woes, I think this one was a very much play it safe. And it felt, from what I've played of it, which was a strike, a load of Crucible stuff, and one of the opening story mission. The opening story mission was like pure nostalgia. It was like, here, everything you knew has blown up. And that, it looked gorgeous. I was playing on a Pro. It was nice seeing all the old characters and whatnot. But aside from that, it was like, yeah, this is business as usual. Like, I slotted right into it and kept playing. And the biggest thing I took away from it was that I played the strike with two other people that I knew. I was sitting next to them playing it, or, I could directly talk to them on the headset. And that's where Destiny really shines. If you have a team of people, like a little clan, and you can go out and constantly play Destiny, you've got Wednesday nights, that's your Destiny night. You're going to get heaps of enjoyment out of this game. When the raid comes along, you guys will be preparing for it, whatnot. But just as a solo game that you pick up and play, it's never going to go beyond the skeletal structure that it has, I don't think.
Right.
And everybody that I see that are loving it are people that have these little Destiny clans, which is why I think the clan format that they've got and the whole guided games thing with the raids and whatnot, I think that's going to be the big deciding factor. So if you loved Destiny 2, but just hated the fact Destiny, sorry, and you hated the fact that you could never take part in the raid or never do the Nightfall strike, then this is probably a safe bet for you, because it is more of the same with tweaks to the little bugbears, I think.
Right.
In a nutshell.
Yeah, I played the beta, so I didn't have PS Plus, but I was able to play through the first 2 missions.
Nice.
So I have played it, and yeah, it seems fine. I got to level 20 in Destiny, gave up when I got to the light levels, and yeah, that was about it for me. I couldn't really be tempted back at any point, but I mean, it certainly seems that if you like Destiny, you're going to like Destiny 2, so it's got that going for it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm gutted the light system came back.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that felt so hashed out. I thought they'd really get rid of that and actually just put like a normal RPG leveling system in there. But they stuck with this like...
Yeah, that's why I prefer Borderlands and stuff like that, where you just level up, you just continuously level up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a good way to do it.
Anyway, 1-2 to another 2. Knack 2.
Knack 2. You want to talk Knack 2 first?
Yeah, let's talk Knack 2
Knack
first.
2 is bloody naff.
NAF 2.
Exactly, NAF 2. Pushsquare.com gave it an 8 out of 10.
They're wrong.
Ludicrous, quite frankly. To each their own. I think it's undoubtedly better than Knack 1.
Polish a turd.
But, exactly. But, it proves that you can polish a turd. But, here's the thing. It's got a terrible story that doesn't make any sense. The story, despite being overblown and quite silly, and it's about goblins and stuff, is played completely straight. Everyone is serious all the time. The dialogue is appalling, which would make you think, oh, maybe it's a kid's game, because it's got a silly story about goblins, but then they play it really straight. The way that they model the humans is so horrifying. They're the ugliest CGI humans I've ever seen. Knack just doesn't make any sense in terms of the character Knack. He speaks in quotes, basically, and quips, but they're not funny, and they're delivered really flatly. And then the gameplay is so hard that I just don't know who it's for. Knack 1 was the same. It was punishingly, frustratingly difficult a lot of the time in the combat, and the checkpoints were dreadful in Knack 1. They are better in Knack 2, but there is still a case of, why is this enemy suddenly pulling out these new moves as soon as I'm on the back foot here? How am I meant to prepare for this? This is stupid. You do have loads more combat options in this, but ultimately that boils down to having to remember more buttons. And I will say that the platforming is undeniably very good. There's some great bits of platforming where, it goes side on and you've got to jump over spinning saw blades and then press R1 to shrink down to tiny Knack and all that sort of stuff. But it goes on for ages. It's frustrating and tedious, and if you like it, good for you, but I don't understand what planet you're on.
Because it did better on Metacritic, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it did a lot better. And as I said, it's a better game. I don't understand why people think it's amazing, though. That's totally beyond me. Maybe it's in the wake of the nostalgia following the Crash Insane trilogy, because it's very much a hark back to that kind of game. But it's not hard because the game is hard. It's hard because the checkpoints are bad and the enemies do that particularly frustrating thing that you sometimes see in Dark Souls, where because there's a dodge button, you'll dodge, and even when the enemy's swinging its weapon down, it'll follow you round and still hit you anyway.
Oh, that's so balls in Dark Souls.
It'll do the stuff where there'll be a splash attack or an area of effect attack, and there'll be no clearly defined area where you're safe and where you're not. So you'll sometimes get hurt anyway, or you'll be waiting on the outskirts of where is safe, and you'll see the attack start to die down. You'll take one step and you'll take the full amount of damage as if you'd been hit anyway. It's like, it's not good. It's fine. So that's Knack 2. Congrats, Mark Cerny, for making a better but still very average game, in my opinion. Everybody's Golf, on the other hand, an absolute delight, Tarrant. Really enjoying it. You create your little guy. Everything levels up all the time as you start to play, like things ticking over. You unlock new gear. You unlock new courses. It's got like a PlayStation Home style home plaza where you can actually just wander around and talk to NPCs and stuff. It's great. It's lovely, and a budget release as well.
I just love how you had to, like, we're talking about, some like big AAA kind of releases, and you're like, no, I've got to talk about Everybody's Golf. Everybody's
Golf is great. Really liked it. Lovely game. Maybe. I've always liked the idea of Everybody's Golf, but I was always terrible at it. But now I'm a bit older. I'm enjoying it.
You're going to like all the chess releases, aren't you? You're going to come back and just be like, oh my god, Pure Chess, best game on PS4.
Pure Chess, yeah, it's my favourite ever. Uncharted, The Lost Legacy. Very, very good. I don't think it's as good as Uncharted 4 because it's a more streamlined adventure.
Yeah.
So it cuts a lot of what some people would call fluff out.
Okay.
I quite like the fluff because it makes it feel like a bigger deal. It makes it feel like there's more game.
It's world building, isn't it? It's experiential, a lot of it. So
I think so. It took me about 6.5 hours to beat Uncharted: The Lost Legacy.
That's pretty good.
Thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thought it was really, really good. And highly recommended to Uncharted fans.
Sure.
I don't think it was quite as good as Uncharted 4. Because obviously it was developed by the quote-unquote B team because the rest are working on The Last of Us Part 2. But it told a reasonable story. I felt like the emotional stuff between Chloe and Nadine felt a little bit forced sometimes, where it was like you'd just go through a shooting section. It'd be like they'd just sit down and one of them would say, "Yeah, so my dad," and then the other one would go, "Oh, no way, my dad," and then they'd just get back to treasure hunting again, and then it was very much a sort of a story of 3 acts where it was like, let's make them friends so we can break them up and then bring them back together again. You could just sense it coming a mile off, but that tends to be how those stories work. But it was very good. I really, really liked it, so highly recommended.
Where does it come chronologically in the whole Uncharted? Like, if I want to pick it up,
4.
So I shouldn't play it if I haven't played Uncharted 4, for example?
No, absolutely not. No.
Wow.
That's the last one you should play. You can play them in order of release. Apart from Golden Abyss, which is okay.
I played that. I played that in an airport in
Did
Paris.
you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was when the Vita was like new, and it back in the day when game shops had them out to play. Yeah, I played it then, and it was a boulder scene with Nate running away from a boulder, and I was like, hang on, this is basically Crash Bandicoot. And at the time I didn't know that Naughty Dog were behind it.
Oh, right. Well, they weren't actually. They were behind. They're behind Uncharted. That was developed by maybe Sony Bend. I'm not sure who developed that. It was okay, that one, but the rest of them great.
And 6.5 hours is really good. I don't recall The Last of Us Left Behind. That was it. I don't recall that being as long, and that's of a similar vein kind of release, isn't it?
Yeah, that was more of a DLC. This I think was originally planned as DLC, and then they just thought, you know what, let's just put it out as its own thing, and it was good. Yeah,
and 6.5 hours they're charging what, like 15-20 quid?
It's about 25.
Yeah, that's
so it's a retail release.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Like,
yeah, it
going,
is.
Hey, we'll just extend that above a DLC, but we're only going to charge half the price of a full retail game, which a lot of full retail games take half that amount of time.
Yeah.
So that's sweet. I haven't fobbed it off either, have I? I haven't been like, oh, Uncharted.
No, you haven't. Well done. It's very mature.
I thought, the last episode and all that, I should let that go, because I'm still not over that comment that we got on iTunes after the first episode about the guy being really miffed that I didn't like Uncharted.
Yeah. Yeah, you made it a thing, but now
I've
you
grown.
need to play it.
I'm a grown man.
Well, there we go. Those are the big games I think that are worth discussing at the moment. I think it's time for some questions. Question time! Tarrant, who's up first?
Rudy Manchego.
Oh boy.
As people involved in gaming, both personally and professionally, do you feel burnt out on gaming and go through periods when you just feel less excited about games in general? Yes. Unequivocally. Yeah.
It's weird because we both sort of have or are working in games.
Yes.
Not this that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what point it was, but there reached a point where I was just so over games in terms of getting excited about the AAA games that were coming out and stuff, and the series that I used to love. I just didn't care anymore, and I wasn't fussed about watching E3 live and things like. Something happened at some point, and I'm not sure what or when it was.
No,
but it stopped. I'm in a very privileged position with my job at the moment, where if there's a game I want to play, I can request a copy, and then I can just play it, and then it's you usually get a copy of a game in exchange for coverage, so I can do it that way.
Yeah.
Which obviously not only saves a ridiculous amount of money, but also I think in a similar but not exactly the same vein to how PlayStation Plus works, where you get some little indie game and you play it for 2 minutes and you're like, can't be arsed with that. And the whole reason is because you, strictly speaking, didn't pay for it, so you don't really care.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same, where I do care because I requested a copy of it and I want to play it, but because I didn't buy it, I feel there's some weird sense. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like it doesn't feel as important as if you pre-ordered it and were looking forward to this game. I feel like we're just so overexposed. That's the thing.
It's exposure, definitely. If you sit in the sun too long, you don't want to stay in the sun the next day. It's the same kind of vibe.
Right. We see everything about these games.
Yeah,
it's hard to get excited sometimes, or at least as excited as you used to when you were young, and these games just suddenly showed up and you're like, oh, I didn't even know there was a sequel in development. That's amazing. Which happened to me with Time Splitters Future Perfect. When that showed up in Tesco, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I used to read PSM3 magazine, and that was my sole source for video game news.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to go a month. I could look online, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't know of the website to go to. I trusted that place, and that's all I did. Now, though, you get everything all the time.
Yeah, the immediacy's killed a lot of it, and all of the echo chamber stuff, so people's hot takes and all of that jazz,
trailer reactions.
Yeah, and YouTube's killed a vast amount of gaming for me, just the twee nature of it all and stuff. And actually, do you know what, the way I consume games has changed as well. Right. Sitting down in front of my TV to sit and play a chunk of games is pretty rare. I mean, I wanted to bring this up at some point, but I played 44 hours of Stardew Valley in 3 weeks, which is just purely disgusting. And I'm so up every time I because obviously it shows you, doesn't it, when you go to log in. Oh, I just get upset with myself every time. But damn, is that game good?
Oh, it's so good. I played it solidly for about 2 months.
You said you couldn't platinum it.
Huh?
You said you couldn't platinum it.
Oh yeah.
You've totally enticed me to platinum it.
Oh god, you're going to be there forever.
Well, I'm not far.
It's a ridiculous platinum, that game.
It is really.
You'd need a guide. I just couldn't be asked to just ruin. I feel like I've ruined my experience if I had to play it for dozens of hours with a guide to make sure I got everything.
But
right.
It's brilliant. Going off topic slightly, it is a brilliant game. But
it's amazing.
Where I sink that kind of time, that's because at the moment I'm in between house and I only work a few days a week at the moment. Don't have uni. Blah blah blah. But I also play a hell of a lot of Hearthstone, which is a mobile game that I can play in a car. I can play on the bog. Mobile is such an easy way to consume games. I really like that. And also games being $54.99 standard price when they release. Okay, I can beat about the bush and probably pick it up for $43.95 with £1 shipping maybe, or free shipping, whatever. But that's still a hell of a lot of money for especially when you look at October, November, when 5-6 decent games come out at once. Mm-hmm. It's just not viable to keep up with it if you're not getting them in gratis for coverage and stuff.
Yeah, I realise I'm in an extremely privileged position, but I mean that's what I always felt when I was watching the likes or listening to the likes of Greg Miller.
Yeah,
rag on games, were we got a couple of copies in and stuff. I was like, you have no idea how good you've got it. How many people would kill to be getting free copies of games? And I never ever take that for granted. I feel incredibly fortunate, but equally, because we can't get a million copies of each game, we have to decide who gets what. And I've noticed increasingly that games that I would have liked to have played, or normally I'd be like, yeah, I'll play that, or yeah, I'll review that. I'm just not fussed. Just not so fussed anymore.
Yeah,
I don't have much time to play games either. I don't play games at work. If people think that's what I do, I don't. Any game I review, I have to play in my spare time, and that's usually for a few hours on a Saturday, and that's it.
It's tough because I did my time clawing my way up the journalism ladder, trying to make that a career, and you end up playing some real trash for a long time.
I played exclusively PlayStation Minis when I first started to Push Square.
And it burns you out, when you've got to put your all into these games. And like, if you hated football games, for example, but you got contracted to do a football game, and you've got to put 110% into that because you've got to remain as objective as possible, blah blah blah. That's tough. That's really tough. Or playing a game that should take 6 hours, you've got to play it in 3 because you literally have no other time, because you're also holding down a retail job and you're like doing whatever. You need to
often work for free as well.
I mean, the amount of times I didn't get any sleep because I played a game through the night, then got up and went, or like got out of bed, went to work, came back, finished writing the review and stuff. The amount of times I had to do that for no money, because that was the way you broke into the industry. It's tough, and it makes you bitter anyway. But trying to play games for enjoyment when you've just pulled an all-nighter trying to play a game for work is so difficult. So difficult. So it's nice to find a game that lights your fire and that you connect with, which is why I'm always harking on about the walking simulators, because they're small, bite-sized games that give me huge enjoyment and are like meaningful short experiences.
Yeah.
They're just a nice bite-sized way to consume games that aren't mobile and are, from a design perspective and from a visual perspective and all of that, very, very good. But yeah, I'd say we both feel pretty burnt out when we have to do this for work as well.
Yeah, we still love games.
Yeah, I mean, we both...
No way too much information about games to give up at this point, right?
No, definitely not. I mean,
it just consumes so much headspace.
Yeah. I mean,
and shelf space as well.
Thing.
God, the state of my flat.
I'm actually moving towards more digital stuff just because I haven't got any space for them.
Yeah.
First world problem or what?
Should probably do that. Anyway, that's a great question. Moving on, Demaster asks, was there ever a game that had some controversy surrounding it, yet you still enjoyed playing it?
No Man's Sky.
Yeah, that's a fair one. Yeah. I wouldn't say...
At the time, I didn't. Actually, at the time of controversy, I didn't. But, like, I love it now, when the controversy is still bubbling away. But, yeah. What about you?
I can't say I've ever really gone in for a game that I was aware had any controversy surrounding it. But I have enjoyed some crap games before, some truly crap games. There was a game that was like practically just copyright infringing every other game franchise, because it was like, the return of Max Hazard or something on PS3.
Right.
Max Hazard.
Quick, Google it.
I'm Googling. Eat Lead, the return of Matt Hazard.
Okay. Is that like
it was
Duke Nukem
rubbish.
ripoff?
Sort of, but it was like, it just aped every video game franchise ever. Like, it was really bad. I think I got the platinum in it. It was really hard. I don't know why I did it.
Because you're
parodies
addicted.
In Matt Hazard. The game includes many parodies in its dialogue, settings, and characters. This process of parodying action games and other genres is greatly assisted by the fact that Matt Hazard is capable of breaking the fourth wall. The parodies include references to long elevator waits as a mask for game loading, text scrolling RPGs, tutorials, various action games, Mario Bros, Duke Nukem, Dungeons & Dragons, Bugs Bunny, Evil Twins, Halo's Master Chief, Wolfenstein 3D, Red Steel, Mortal Kombat, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Resident Evil, and more. And the aggregate score was like 5.
Wow.
But I still really enjoyed it because it was so stupid. So yeah, not controversial by any stretch of the imagination, but I still had fun with it.
But just rubbish.
Yeah, just rubbish, yeah.
I liked the Call of Duty that No Russia was involved in. The level where you just gun down an airport full of people.
Was that Modern Warfare 2 or 3?
I think. Yeah, I mean, that level itself is just vile and should never have existed. It was completely... like, it could have just been mentioned in dialogue or something. It was completely vile and unwarranted, and I'm glad that they at least gave you an option to not have it. But yeah, I mean, the game itself it was attached to, I loved.
Yeah. Andrew Webb asks, what games do you think we'll see at PSX in December that didn't appear at E3? God, hopefully... oh God, what's it called?
We're in a really awful position where it's been a while since E3, but it's still a while to PlayStation Experience.
What wasn't there? Like, Ni no Kuni will probably be there, I'd have thought.
Yeah, I mean, that got delayed, didn't it? So hopefully by then they'll have a lot more, like, maybe a long-term gameplay thing to show.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
The Spyro collection, please, Activision.
Oh, please. That would be so good. Because it was
that's
only
what I
because
want.
Insomniac have been Microsofted, and they're not anymore.
Yeah, well, it's owned by Activision. Activision own...
Yeah, and obviously they've
So-
got the affiliation with PlayStation, so...
I'm hoping that maybe they give it to the studio that made Vicarious Visions, I think, did the Insane
Yeah, and
collection.
they smashed
yeah,
that,
they'll do a good job. I'm sure they will.
I'd
so
be all over that.
hopefully they'll do it. Maybe
I love Spyro. Such good games. And that's not even me talking through nostalgia. Like, I genuinely played through all three of them, the trilogy, on my Vita. I used to play it on the way to work.
Yeah, I was... my girlfriend really liked Spyro. Still really likes Spyro.
Yeah,
And
quality.
we, together, played through Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon.
No.
And 100%ed it.
You nerds.
Like, all of the gems, all of the... It was great. Yeah, so...
You a bunch of nerds.
I know, right? And that was only like a month ago. So, yeah, Spyro is still very much beloved. But we don't talk about the PlayStation 2 or Skylanders. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, dark time for old Spyro.
Didn't happen. Elijah Wood was never the voice of Spyro. Thank you. Finally, Big Copman asks, which games would you like to see as a remastered collection? Dead Space, Dark Souls, etc. I have two immediately, Tarrant.
Yep.
Demon Souls and Dark Souls in the same package. And the goddamn Mass Effect trilogy. What are you doing?
Yeah, why? I
hurry
really
up.
thought they'd do that as well.
It's beggars belief.
Yeah, I
be
really
perfectly
thought
honest.
they'd do that. There must be an issue with porting, because porting isn't as simple as just going, like, drag and drop.
True, but those games were on PC.
Which does make it easier,
And
yeah.
it is that's quite close to the PS4 architecture, or at least closer than the PS3 was. They could do it if they wanted to. They're EA. They're just not for some reason. I don't know why.
I'd love
buy
a
it.
Souls, like a Souls collection. That'd be wicked.
Yeah.
That's what we might see at PlayStation Experience. From Software might pop up with something. Probably
Yeah.
Armored Core. Not gonna lie.
Boo!
but,
No one's
yeah.
going to want that. Everyone will see the From Software logo and go, "Oh!" And then it'll be giant, massive robots, and people are like, "Oh."
I still really want it to be Bloodborne 2.
They need to do a Bloodborne 2, and they need to contract From Software to just remake a Demon's Souls in the Dark Souls 3 engine.
Oh, that'd be so good.
I don't want any updated, HUD. I don't want any updated gameplay mechanics to introduce some of the stuff that they introduced in the later Dark Souls. I literally want
Just zhuzh it up.
Demon's Souls, but shinier.
But shinier. Shiny Souls.
Shiner. Yeah, please. That's what I'd like. What would you like, apart from Dark Souls?
Collected remasters. I'm just trying to think of what I used to love. Oh, I mean, obviously I'd love a Time Splitters collection.
Oh, yes,
That'd be
please.
so sweet. I'm looking at
Crytek, what are they doing with that license? Idiots.
Crytek's in Crisis. Hey.
Hey, yeah, it is.
They're
but still,
having an absolute mare with their IPs, and I think it's not worth as much as we think it should be.
I don't know. I did an April Fool's video on Push Square's YouTube channel a couple of years ago, saying that I'd found leaked documents on a train.
I remember that, and it
it
was
was
all drawn.
It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever done,
That
because
was
I just
brilliant.
hand drew it on A4 pieces of printer paper and said, well, here you can clearly see some weapons. And people were so mad. People were so mad. April Fool's video. They were so angry
So
at
good,
it.
so
There's
good.
clearly a lot of people that like Time Splitters out there.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
a deceptive amount, maybe as many as, would buy the crashed Insane trilogy.
Well, that did
they're out there.
insane numbers. So
It certainly ended, right?
I'm looking at I rebought a load of PS2 games from a charity shop because why not? And what do you remember? Did you ever play Warhammer 40k Fire Warrior? The first
No, I've
shooter?
never been into the Warhammer video games.
I've just got back into it. I bought all the miniatures and paints and stuff. It's like you can tell I've got a little bit of disposable income.
No.
No friends. But yeah, I'd love that to get remastered because that was brilliant. That was so... I feel like the Warhammer 40k franchise in general is just so unloved in video games. They never seem to do it that right. Space Marine was really good, but they should do a big RPG game with it. That'd be so intense. And they need to do a film. It's just the lore and fiction is so rich. Why has it not been adapted? They adapt bloody 50 Shades of Grey, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, awful.
Don't underestimate horny middle-aged women.
That was insane. I remember, like, you couldn't buy that book. It was just sold out everywhere because all these, like, middle-aged women just wanted to get wet on the train to work. Just unbelievable.
Disgusting.
Unbelievable. Actually, do you know what they need to remake? Metal Arms Glitch in the System. Arguably one of the best third-person shooter games I've ever played. And it's amazing. I grew up playing that on PS2 at my friend's house, so purely nostalgia-driven, but it was so good. So good. Well, like, if you haven't ever heard of it, check it out, because, like, the humour in it stands up today. It was still so good.
Really?
Yeah, and it had, like, you could take control of robots, and there was one called the Titan, and just ploughed around, and it was like a very self-aware game, but also was, like, solid as a rock. There was, like, progression, so you'd upgrade your weapons, and it had the whole Ratchet and Clank, like, gathering bolts. Oh, so good. Vehicles. It was so well done. So well. It was by Sierra, who I think were involved with Time Splitters in some capacity, if I recall. But yeah, really, really good. So that should be remastered. It's not set, but it should be remastered.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. Should
we move on?
Yeah. It's kind of sad. We're getting to the closing section. I'm starting to feel a bit, I don't know, impending doom.
I'm just feeling hungry, to be honest.
Oh, fair enough. Sorry, man.
Let's move on. Well, now we've reached the end of the show, Tarrant. I believe you've written some thank yous down here.
They're short, and they're definitely not all encompassing. There's obviously, I mean, we were hitting a fair number of people listening, and if I could thank every single one of you, I would. But obviously that's not feasible. And instead of naming names and forgetting people and offending you all, we're going to just blanket thank you. But know that if you are listening, you are definitely included in these thank yous.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to start and just say thank you to all of our forum posters on the Push Square podcast thread, because you are insanely dedicated to posting on that and keeping that alive, having nice discussions in there. When I forget to ask you guys for questions and you've got 6 hours to do it, you guys always deliver, and we get some stonking questions that we've absolutely loved answering. It's been really nice creating a banter and getting to know you guys through that forum post, so definitely don't be strangers and hit us on social media. We'll roll through our socials at the end or something, so you guys can give us a follow and we can try and keep in contact, and you can hear all of our super hot takes through Twitter instead or something.
Yes.
And
speaking of Twitter, you set up a Twitter account for the podcast.
I did. I didn't look after it,
but it was there.
It existed,
and that's the point. What is that Twitter handle?
Push Square Pod. At Push Square Pod.
And once more.
Push Square Pod.
Okay,
at Push Square Pod.
At Push Square Pod. Cool. Okay. I'd like everyone to go and check that out, because I'm going to send you over the original notes, Tarrant, that we made when we went to the pub.
Oh, no way!
If you want to, I've still got the notes on my phone, so if you want to just post a progression of those, maybe in the forums as well.
Yeah.
Then people can see those, including some early show name ideas,
PSP.
some PSP. Yeah, you kind of went for that in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
No, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, you guys can look out for that, and we can. Yeah, we don't want to just disappear. That's why we've cobbled this episode together for you guys, because it's not cool to just like drop off the face of the planet when this was a joint effort between us and you.
Yes, of course. Thank you everyone who left us iTunes reviews.
Yes,
it was nice.
Except that guy.
Sustained us. Except that one guy, the Uncharted man, who presumably isn't here still.
Yeah, because we still talk about Uncharted, and I still don't like it.
Whatever. We're over it.
We've got to say a thank you to our Lord Protector, Sammy Barker.
Yes, of course.
For coming on the show, because he reviews everything. And Alex Stinton, I did not write that. We should say thank you to him, because he reviews bloody everything and always was up for the show, and he was always a good sport.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sammy.
And thank you to King Weeb, Robert Ramsey, for filling in for me when I gallivanted away around the world, and for supporting Push Square's more niche games.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. That's one way of
And
putting
of course, all the Lord and protecting board of directors above everyone that exists in Push Square. Thank you for taking a chance on us, supplying us with not only the ability to be heard, but also to accommodate us in the Push Square universe. So that was really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, what have you got written here, Tarrant?
Most of all, a massive thanks to you.
Me?
No, not you. You as in the people listening. You, yes, you. The person that hearing now.
Right.
That includes you, but it's not directed at you.
Right, but not me.
Not
Not
you,
me.
no.
Okay.
No.
Even though I'm there.
Whoever's on the receiving end of this broadcast, except Potter,
Yeah.
a thank you to you, because without you, this wouldn't work, because we'd just be talking to each other, which, we've both got better things to do than that.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I heard you guys saying that you listen on the way home from work, that you listen in the gym. That's awesome that you guys picked us to occupy your time with. So thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. It's weird because at the end, once I've sent this podcast off and uploaded the video to YouTube, that'll be me done with Push Square.
Yeah.
Like finished. And I will email, the important folks and thank them and explain. But that's me, isn't it? Like, I started as a writer.
Yep.
And I wrote for ages, and then I begged Sammy to let me have a go at video, and they did. And then I was unable to review games because I just didn't have enough time, and I started properly having a go at video instead. And it was off the back of them allowing me to experiment that allowed me to move into my current job.
Yep.
And hopefully move on to even better things at some point as well. And so I'm immensely grateful for that. So I went to video editor from staff writer. And then when that sort of died down a bit at the beginning of last year and we started up the podcast, I switched over to podcast editor. And now with this dying down as well, that's sadly the end of my Push Square journey. I think I'll always be a member of the Push Square family, and I've made some incredible friends through Push Square. You and
met.
Ramsey, and exactly. And I'll always look out for those guys at events and shows and EGX and that sort of stuff if I go to that. But it's been an absolute pleasure, and I would not be anywhere close to where I am currently if I hadn't done stuff with Push Square, or they hadn't taken a chance on me to let me do stuff.
Getting all
so
emotional.
Thank you very much. Not really. I'm still hungry, but I just wanted to say it here in a public forum that I don't, for a second, undervalue what they've done for me personally.
No, it's been fantastic. I mean, it kickstarted exactly the same as you, that I came on as a writer, and it acted as a springboard into what was a swift and spiraling career in games journalism. That accumulated in me ending up in PR, which I then ended up being on the other side of the fence working with Push Square, and now I'm actually moving into making games. It's weird that's come full circle, and in a way for me, I'll still pop on and write. I'm quite close to London, so I often jump in and help them out with events and stuff. So like the Destiny hands-on, for example, a lot of the other guys are up north, beyond the wall, so
yes,
it's easier for me to go for them. So I'll still be around in that capacity. I'm not disappearing from Push Square, but on the flip side, it's probably a good time to, like you said, in a public space, just kind of make it clear that I fully appreciate everything Push Square did. And if any of you guys listening want to work in games and want to start your career in games, Push Square is one of the best outlets to foster talent. So you should have a look on the website and see if you can get involved too. I strongly encourage you to.
Jump in there. Get involved.
Definitely.
I think that doesn't just apply to the youths either, like we were when we were. Well, I was wrapping up university when I reached out. You were younger,
yes.
And I think an excellent example to people who still feel like they can contribute in some way, but maybe aren't at school age or whatever, is Alex Stinton.
Yeah, absolute trooper.
Who holds down a full-time job in quite a senior capacity and still miraculously finds the time to write and live stream and all that stuff. So if you want to do it, you absolutely can. You just need to reach out to Push Square and see what you can offer, and just give it a go, because you never know.
Yeah, definitely.
Give that a try. Right, well, with that said, shall we run through this outro for the last time?
Yeah, let's do it. That's all we've got time for. But be sure to keep it locked to pushsquare.com.
Yes.
Best PlayStation. It. I it.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm a bit like, yeah, I'll try again.
Okay, give it a go.
That's all we've got time for, but be sure to keep it locked to pushsquare.com for the best PlayStation content on the internet in the form of daily news, reviews, features, and more.
I was just writing down that you swore. And if you'd rather that content come straight to your social media feeds, then follow the team on Twitter at PushSquare, or find them on Facebook.com/PushSquare. And if you want to see rather than read because you're lazy like me, head to YouTube.com/PushSquare, where you can find streams, vlogs, and other video form shenanigans. And make sure you go back and watch my Game of the Month videos. They're still there. Tarrant, what if they'd like to hear any of our stuff?
Well, presuming that we aren't brutally wiped from the history books of Push Square, our podcast can be found, for now, on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. Or if you go to pushsquare.com/podcast, you'll be able to find an archive of all of our shows and the supporting articles, which you guys crack on. Give them a listen. We do silly things. All the new stuff's probably like super irrelevant, but other than that, it's all fun and games. Literally.
Make sure you keep it locked to pushsquare.com, the best PlayStation site on the internet, and if anyone tells you otherwise, you can punch them in the face.
That's a rule.
There we go, just wanted to extend that a little bit. Tarrant, where can they find you, and what are you currently doing?
So you can find me at Ben_Tarrant on Twitter. I'm pretty, contrary to my activity on the podcast Twitter, I'm very active on normal Twitter. And I am currently studying game development at the University of East London, hoping to move into a career making games in some capacity. Fantastic. What about you?
You can find me on Twitter at confused_dude. I am currently a voiceover presenter, video editor for What Culture's various YouTube channels, and I also have another PlayStation podcast called PlayStation Radio UK if you want to find me on there. But Tarrant and I will still be friends.
Oh,
and
what?
So
what?
You can So you can follow us both on Twitter, and then you can keep up to date with our various back and forths and stuff. And I have no doubt that we will be crossing paths in the future, albeit in some video game development capacity / voiceover responsibility.
Oh yeah, when I'm indie, I'm getting you to do all of that for me because mates rates.
Sick. Yeah, just a pizza.
Yeah,
I literally did a piece of voiceover last week in exchange for the amount of money I knew a KFC cost.
Amazing.
That's
you in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'm cheap. Buy me. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, very much for listening to this. It's been a great, fun experiment for the last year and a half or so. Nearly 2 years now.
Yeah, nearly 2 years.
About a year
Christ.
and a half. Yeah, a year and 5-6 months. Tarrant, thank you so much.
Potter, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. And to everyone out there, stay sexy. Had to ruin it.
Oh,
Bye.
God.
Thank you for listening to the Push Square Podcast. For the latest PlayStation news, reviews, and features, visit www.pushsquare.com.